conversation you had with Geno right before the buzzer there ended? And two, last year to this year, obviously, is a big swing from Final Four game. Can you just describe the emotions of last year's Final Four game losing and then today winning, and just any sort of redemption or anything that you might feel?
One, you can ask Geno the question. You know, he's the one that initiated the conversation. I don't want, you know, what happened there to dampen what we were able to accomplish today. And the difference is, I mean, experience. I think losses, when you have losses that hurt, but you really understand the why. I think UConn was a really well-oiled machine, and if you didn't have disruption and consistent disruption, and you allow them to play as freely as they want to play and shoot as freely as they shoot, they're very efficient and very, very good. You know, our whole objective was to get them to shoot as inefficiently as possible. Make them put the ball on the floor. Don't give them as many catch and shoot opportunities. And I thought our kids really locked in to that. They were scrappy. They were in gap help. They were contesting shots. UConn got back in the game, and they were unbothered, right, by it. They knew what they had to do. And I'm just proud because quite honestly, to play them the first time we played them last year, which was in February, I think, or January, and then come back and play them in the national championship game, I didn't know how we could come up with 25 points because they beat us like by 25 points the first time. And then you know when you have an uphill battle and how you're going to accumulate some points. We just didn't have enough offensive firepower in the national championship game or the first time we played them in the regular season. This time I thought we had enough firepower from an offensive standpoint. And then just from a defensive standpoint, this team has gotten better defensively in belief and utilizing their God-given abilities to lock in. I thought it was a performance that makes you super proud when they're able to execute. Like, you can see it as a coach, but sometimes the players don't see it. What they did was just they filled in all the gaps that were created out there, and just super proud of them.
Hampton Roads has a long-running high school and college sports tradition. It's time to give them the spotlight they deserve. This is 757 Sports Talk. Here are Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
Listen, all Dawn Staley said at the end of that is what I say about Ed Young every time we play a game. I will beat his tail. We welcome you to 757 Sports Talk, powered by Cova Sports TV. Like, share, and always subscribe with the coach, Ed Young. I am Matthew Hatfield. How riveting was that? We have some spice. We have some drama. Two of the coaching icons, legends of the game, exchanging barbs and spats. Before we let Ed Young dive in on this, and me too, and all of you are welcome to do so here on our Cova Sports TV YouTube channel. We're asking, who do you have winning today in the men's Final Four? We're also asking you, what did you make of that spat at midcourt as they exchanged some not so pleasantries, Staley and Auriemma? And also, we're talking everything sports with you all morning long. Before you dive in, would you like to get Geno's side of this? You heard from Dawn. Would you like to get Geno's side of what he had to say?
Good morning to all. The coach greets all. Yeah, I guess we kind of heard Don Staley's rebuttal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can. I have a few thoughts on this, but not.
Oh, yeah. Listen, people, this is lighting up the internet and social media world, which, before I even get to Geno sound, two things about this. Number one, it's good and bad. It's good because it brings attention to the women's game, which is growing and getting better. And the women's game needs that. And that part is healthy for the sport. The part that's not healthy is this takes away from what was a very intense game and the shine being on these young ladies. South Carolina, a titan in its own regard, a giant in the sport that was the underdog that played maybe its best defensive game all year long to end the 54-game winning streak of UConn, and UConn being derailed of an undefeated run. Remember, Ed, UConn had won every game by double figures. They weren't just beating people, they were bludgeoning folks. So it is the one thing about this, do you want to have your sport elevated? It's almost like what they say in baseball or hockey, more fights, elevate the attention to the sport. But let's hear what Geno had to say. He thinks there's a double standard, number one. And as Frank Sinatra once sang, regrets, I had a few, but then again, too few to mention. Well, did Geno have any regrets? A couple of sound bites from Auriemma last night.
Talk to them like that. I'm wondering if that fed into your frustration at the end of the game at all.
I just want to make sure there's not a double standard. I'm of the opinion that if I ever talk to an official like that, I would get tossed. So I just want to make sure there's not a double standard. That some people are allowed to talk to officials like that and other people are not. That's it. So yeah, that was pretty frustrating. I don't have any regrets about what I said to Holly Rowe. Why would I? Why would I? I've been coaching a long time. I've never had a kid have to change their jersey because somebody ripped it and the official said I didn't see it. There are a lot of things that happen in that game. Unless you're on that sideline, you have no idea what's happening on that sideline. No, I mean, for 41 years I've been coaching and I've been, 25 Final Fours. And the protocol is before the game, you meet at half court. Anybody ever see that before? Two coaches meet at half court and they shake hands. Correct? You ever see it? They announce it on the loudspeaker. And I waited there for like 3 minutes. So it is what it is.
Geno, waiting for his handshake. Where is it? Where is it? Wait. There it is. He got it. He got his handshake. Doesn't look like it's that warm and fuzzy of a handshake. Looks like Ed Young shaking hands with the guy that is bringing him his bills in the mail, his mailman. Thank you very much.
No, I don't ever meet the mailman for bills. You said about bringing attention to the women's game. This is the wrong attention for them to have. The game itself has to carry itself. Geno, and I really like Geno. I like Dawn Staley. Geno booted this one. Mm-hmm. Now the whole idea is I hate to talk about things that I'm not 100% privy to. We weren't on that sideline. We didn't hear what's going on. I only could take what I saw and then listening to Geno and Don. And if Geno is worried about a pregame handshake, and I got to believe there's something else to it.
Oh, listen, this is frustration boiling over. And by the way, one of my favorite sayings or phrases on this show, as you know, is two things can be true. Two things can be true. One thing can be true is that UConn, which has gotten so many whistles and benefits of the doubt over the years, could have gotten hosed in the third quarter because the foul count was 6-0. But they also missed shots and didn't play well. And South Carolina outplayed them and outcoached them and outworked them. And that happens sometimes. And it felt like he was not prepared mentally, physically, emotionally for what essentially was a beatdown. They lost by double figures after not losing a game, about every game being won by double figures for what was to come. And then he just used this. He looks really bad after this, doesn't he, Ed? I mean, he looks really bad.
As I was saying, if he's worried about a pregame handshake, that's overrated. Now, he said something about it's tradition. They call for the coaches. Well, that crap needs to be changed. You don't need – they have a professional relationship as is. Don was an assistant under him and one or two Olympics. So let's get that part out of the way. Number two, let's go to the main focus of the game. South Carolina came in like a bear, and they handled their business well. Whether Geno likes it or not, prepared or not, and I don't think it's not being prepared. His girls didn't deliver. The ripped jersey is the least of his worries. And if he doesn't like the foul situation, 6-0 the fouls, again, come on, Geno, we all been there. It happens. Well, Dawn Staley is controlling officials. Well, you have a tendency to control officials too. That's really the official situation, or you coming back at the officials. That's not, you don't come out for public gratification for it, or, hey, oh, woe is me, you should all be cheering for me. Hey, let it go. Girls have to perform better, and UConn on the biggest stage did not. And you got to give credit to Staley's girls. They just did a hell of a job. And now here comes the end of the game. He walks over to her before the game is over, and then really just comes over there to chastise her. You don't do that, Geno. You know better than that. You just don't do that. And then he walks out. So after the game, he's not available to do the handshake. And I've always said the post-game handshake is something that needs to be eliminated. You only get issues and problems a lot of times with it. The players don't really like shaking hands for the most part. They just go through the motions. And if there's something brewing in the game, it can blow up then. So I've never been a big proponent for everybody shaking hands after the game.
It's the sportsmanship thing, right? It's the sportsmanship.
Yeah, I could see the two coaches doing it, but in that situation, it worked. Geno, I love you, man, but you blew this one. And you could have done all of this out of public view, which is how it should have been done.
Sure.
Ranting and raving with Holly Rowe. Come on now. You're not going to win that. You could be 100% right. You're not going to win that. So it could have been done in a private setting. Now, Geno, if he thinks about it, of course, his ego's big. He'll probably not say much of it. But since he did a public display of kind of shaming Staley and her girls, then he needs to do a public apology, not behind the scenes. Don't call her on the phone.
Good luck with that.
Don't call her phone. You got to do it in a public sense because that's how you do it. You got to eat crow on this one. And, and I think Dawn, who could be a little crazy herself, handled it fairly well.
Well, they're both competitors. You know that as a coach. Yeah.
Yeah, which I'm glad she did because it could have got really nasty. Geno has a reputation. There's a lot of the female women coaches who do not like him. And he doesn't really care, and neither should he worry about it. He just take care of his team. Well, I don't want this to become, and I've already seen it on the internet, a white-black thing, a female-male thing.
No, I got racist.
People say, well, if Dawn Staley would have done that, they would have asked for her being fired. Let's eliminate that BS right off the bat. Okay, the game is above that now. We don't have to worry about that.
Right. I don't think it's all about that, but I do think it's, that's because you're a big personality in the high school hoop sense. So I'm going to all these coaches, men's and women's college basketball. You can throw in Kim Mulkey, who's one of the greats of the game. We saw one of the comments about Pat Summitt. all of them have personalities and egos. You would acknowledge that. You have an ego as a high school coach. You all you guys and gals do. So I think when somebody threatens your territory, he's been on top for so long, and he still is the GOAT despite of his poor actions and behavior after this game. He can still be the GOAT. Like I said, two things can be true. But there is, perfectly said by Marcus Kroc there's a new sheriff in town. She's just the second person to beat Geno twice in the Final Four. The other one was Muffet McGraw of Notre Dame, who's now on TV with ESPN and the ACC Network. And it doesn't mean Geno now goes into the background and forever leaves, but he now knows that Dawn is on equal footing with him. She's beaten him more than once in the Final Four. After last year, he beat her pretty badly in the championship game. There was no Paige Beckers. And about the game here, if you watch the game, and I watched every possession of this game, a couple of things stood out. And I told us people all year who said, oh, no, UConn's going to. I told them my pick, by the way, in the bracket. You remember I said this. I had UCLA. And I'm sticking by it, by the way, folks. I could be dead wrong tomorrow. I've got UCLA with Lauren Betts on the inside beating South Carolina. Now, if South Carolina wins, it's not a shock. They're actually favored by 3.5 points. It was not a shock if UConn had won. But these are the 4 1 seeds that made it last year. These are all really good teams. I know everybody thinks of women's basketball as it's UConn or Tennessee, or it's UConn and South Carolina. There's more than just 2 teams here at the party, at the dance. And these games, when you get to the Final 8, Final 4, Final 2, become really good. Although that second game last night, let's be perfectly honest, it was a rock fight, and it was an ugly rock fight, and it put people to sleep because it was an awful played game. Even Corey Close, the coach of UCLA, joked how terrible the game was. But this game changed late in the third quarter, Ed. And this is what Geno was referencing, the torn jersey. Geno, get your facts straight before you go shooting off your mouth. Sarah Strong ripped her own jersey. Now, it might have got ripped as well, but she admitted it. It was shown on the cameras, so you look even whinier when you say that. Get your facts right. The player of the year, Sarah Strong, who was magnificent in last year's championship, ripped her own jersey. That's piece number 1. Piece number 2, UConn got it down to 1, and it was 10 or 11. They hit 3 threes in a row. But this is where, again, they could not buy a bucket from the outside. He even said it after his profanity-laced little mini tirade rant with Holly Rowe. AZ, Fudd, and Strong, and the whole group could not hit from the outside. But they got it to 1, and then South Carolina got a little flurry to end the third quarter. And while South Carolina's 2 best players are regarded to be Tania Latson, who led the nation in scoring last year, Florida State transfer, and Raven Johnson, who's been a part of championship runs. Oh, let me don't forget Joyce Edwards. Those are the top 3 players. Joyce Edwards, Raven Johnson, Tania Latson. They got an unsung hero. We talk about this all the time in the men's game. Someone that comes out of nowhere to give you a big effort. Off the bench, they get 14 points from, and I hope I don't butcher her name, Agat Makir, a freshman, averages 7 a game, and she scored about 7 or 8 in a row in the third, fourth quarter. That was the game because they put it out of reach. And UConn, and again, I know they had a game plan. I know you say they weren't prepared. I don't think they were prepared for how to handle a tight game. And it's not so much all that defeat of Geno. When you haven't been in a tight game and everything's a blowout and you're in the fourth quarter of a dogfight and shots aren't falling, how do you react? It's almost like what we saw last weekend in the men's game with Duke. It's going haywire. How do you react? And the moment and the pressure got to them. It clearly did.
Yeah, when you don't expect to get blown out, let alone win, you're expecting to win, and things are going 100% against you, you're going to have those tirades. It is a, what do we do now? And again, I just simply, it's a shame. It took away from South Carolina's win. It took away from the women's game entirely because I'll make a statement a lot of people won't like. The women's game still is not on par with the men in terms of acceptance, nationwide.
Well, you're right.
I even heard a sportscaster yesterday, a pretty prominent one, say there's nothing going on like on Friday night and Sunday. It's a great weekend. Right. Masters is coming up next week. And somebody called and said, hey, wait a minute, women are playing. And he goes, yeah. He said, it's not bad. He said, but that's for a select audience. And I'm like, wow.
But hold on now. They've had better numbers, but what you're saying is true to this extent. Are we leading off the show for 20-plus minutes and getting a guest on about this if there isn't a spat? So that's why you say it's bad. And it is in that realm. It's unfortunate. But the whole sports world is talking about this now. So it is bad, but it also brings attention. You can shake your head. It's the truth. You can shake your head all you want. It is the honest to God truth.
I'm saying it's for everybody to go nuts. They're going nuts on the spat. Nobody's talking about the game, the women's.
I just did. I just talked about the game.
You're one of a million. That's what my whole point is. For a sport that has to live on a spat to get recognition,
No, that's not true. Because Caitlin Clark, if you were how are you living in a cave? Just 2 years ago, the women's games were outdrawing the men because of Caitlin Clark. It doesn't happen every year, but you shake your head. Sometimes you need a phenomenon, a player, or a storyline to elevate. And I'm not saying that this is what the game wants or needs, but it is the honest. Hold on. You can shake your head all you want, Ed. The truth is, people will be tuning in more. Yes, they will. I'm telling you, the numbers say it. Why are you shaking your head? Caitlin Clark.
You're missing the whole point.
The men's games.
You're missing the whole point.
What point am I missing?
Okay. You and I right now, you opened up with the whole spat. If there was no spat, we wouldn't have opened up with this game.
That's what I just said to you. How am I missing it? I just said it to you.
That's my point. You are saying,
you just said my point.
Bring it to the women's game. If the game is that big and that important, we'd be opening with women's games with no spats, no arguments, whether it's a blowout or not. We don't do that.
Yes and no, because the game did lead off SportsCenter regardless, and it does that regardless because it is on ESPN, and it is the only thing really happening at that level. You're not going to lead off with an NBA regular season game or a hockey game or a baseball game when you have a Final Four game. So yes and no. But that's what I'm trying to – I said to you, we just spent 20-plus minutes on this because of the spat. But like I just said to you, you talked about the game not being on par with the men's game. That's ordinarily true. But when you have legendary coaches and big-name programs or a player like they had just a couple years ago in Caitlin Clark, you can't dismiss what she did for the eyeballs and attention to the women's game. So sometimes it might take something like this to get the needle moving. That's my point. So I didn't miss the point, sir.
You're 100% wrong in this one, but I'm going to let you roll with it because you feel good. And I always like to see people feel good. My whole point is this. If there's no spat between Geno and Dawn, the world is not going crazy about the women's Final Four.
I just said that. Are you? What's going through the left ear and out the right ear that you're not understanding? I just said that.
Again, we can agree to disagree.
What are we disagreeing on? I just said it. You carbon copy what I just said. That put this on our show for 20-plus minutes.
You're emotional because of this little spat thing going on. When I'm saying, how about get emotional on a regular game for the women? That doesn't happen as it does with the men. And the women play a great game. But again, if we didn't have the spat, the world would not be talking about the women's Final Four. That is my point. So
yes,
let's let it roll.
The world would not be full. I agree with that. I said that to you.
Okay, stop right there. That's my whole point. Women's basketball does not draw the attention that men do. The Caitlin Clark phenomenon was Caitlin Clark. It wasn't. It wasn't. Let me put Loyola of California on against Fordham women's game.
Right.
People would be snooze sleep. It was because of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. That was the whole idea behind that. When Caitlin Clark went to the WNBA, boom, 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 because of Caitlin Clark, not the women's game and all the other players coming into the WNBA. That's my whole point. The WNBA would not exist if the NBA did not front the league with money. It's a given fact, not Ed Young opinion. Every women's pro league has never survived.
What does that got to do with this situation, though? I don't get what that has to do. You're bringing up something that's
because what I'm saying is you need the women's game. For the women's game to have a spat to bring recognition to it, it's a sorry statement.
Well, but Ed, that's what I said a little while ago, that it's sometimes unfortunate when baseball and hockey ratings are dwindling in comparison to football, which is king, that sometimes – people get excited when there's a big brawl or baseball bench clearing dugout fight. And so there's no difference to it to me than that. It's the same deal. It's the same. We know that the women's game doesn't ordinarily draw what the men's game is, but you can't deny the fact, like I said, and we're in agreement. So I don't know why you're saying agree to disagree, that this adds more spice and intrigue. Now, obviously, Geno and them are done, but the South Carolina finished the deal coming up on Sunday. I think the numbers will be pretty good for that game. It should be a really good game. And we'll delve in on the game with someone who was there at the Final Four. My broadcast partner, Shonda DeBerry, a little bit later on in the show. She is she's the color analyst on the play-by-play voice for Old Dominion. She's there in Phoenix, so she got to witness both games in addition to the spat. So, okay, I think it's fast. People are talking about it from left to right, and you just, I don't know what.
No, it's not a big deal to me. It's not only because it went into public, and it shouldn't be. The coaches, they're both big personalities, and there's people that hate Geno, there's people that hate Dawn, but they get their job done. People hate Geno because he gets all the best girls normally, and you don't see like the portal doesn't affect the women's game as much as it does the men. Though I'm interested to see where the big girl from Iowa State goes too, because whoever gets her is going to jump way up high.
Yeah, she has a name, Audie Crooks. Don't be like Nate Burleson out there and not acknowledge Brad Underwood's name, please. Come on now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Of course, when I heard her leaving, I just shook my head again. Why? You're in a program, you're in a place where you've highlighted that program, you're getting the money. It's just, again, well, I want more money. Okay, that's portal. We don't need to get into all that. But I'm just sorry for the game itself. And Geno, who already knows that he doesn't care about his attackers, you just gave them more
fuel,
ammunition to do the thing. And that's not right, because you take away from your team also. And I think that's why Dawn kind of held back, because she is not one to step back for nothing, because she wants her team to have the recognition. They earned that situation. I feel they have a shot with UCLA. I'm like you. I think UCLA in a close game, won't be surprised if this fuels South Carolina a little bit more to come out and play even better. But I just wish the game stood on the game merit itself, not something, when we talk about brawls and fights and people jump into it, the ratings go. Those are your knuckleheads who don't really watch it, but they see a fight and they say, this is what I wanted to see. Because if it was no fight, they wouldn't care. The numbers drop down again. And that's what the point I'm trying to make is you can't. A lot of people go to hockey game. Why go to hockey game? The fights. Huh? What about the action? Oh, that's good. I just want to see fights. To me, I shake my head and say, idiots. Well, that's not what you go to a hockey game for.
Yeah, this happened after the game was over, so the numbers are already the numbers. But we spent so much time on this. Let's move on to the next topic. We'll take a break. We're going to come back and talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo with what's going on there. Ed Young's Raiders have a new quarterback. And plus, coming up in just a little bit, you're going to hear from David Glenn of the David Glenn Show to break down the men's Final Four, because we're going to spend some time on that before we bring in Shauna DeBerry. Big matchups today, and we want to know your thoughts on it. Who's going to win? Arizona, Michigan, Illinois, UConn. What were the odds that the UConn men would be playing deeper into April than the women? Especially a week ago when UConn's men's team was down 19. They must have been like 95,000 to 1. Oh my, oh my, oh my. We got more coming your way. It is 757 Sports Talk. You're watching with us on Cova Sports TV, where Ed Young and I are ready to fight. Duke it out, ladies and gents.
Did you know that the minimum limits in Virginia are $30,000? $30,000 is a lot of money on an individual basis. But if you're involved in a personal injury matter, that's not enough. Here at Williams-Deloitte, we're happy to provide a consultation on the amount of coverage you have in your vehicle. It can be confusing. Not many people understand it. You know you need to have it, but do you have enough? Give us a call today at 757-547-5555 so we can help you prepare in the case of an automobile accident or any other personal injury matter that you or your family may find yourself in.
For any athlete, making it to the top sometimes comes with a few steps back. That's why there's CHKD Sports Medicine. Advanced diagnostics, treatment, and rehabilitation for sports injuries, just for young athletes like yours.
What's up at DQ? Oh, just the best deal ever. The $7 bacon cheeseburger meal deal. Bacon cheeseburger, fries, drink, and a sundae. No time to be modest. It's all full size for just $7. Right now at DQ. Happy tastes good.
Well, it's everybody's favorite time of year again. Time to prepare to make your annual donation to that infernal revenue service. And if you're like me, you need help. Help to keep that donation as small as possible. So get off your W-2 and call John Maynard at John's Tax Service. 455-6763.
As a banker at Town Bank, we believe that people bank with people, not with banks. You're looking for an actual personal relationship, and that's what you get at our bank. You get that person that gets to know you, gets to know your business, is there for you. I think that is what motivates us, what drives us. And the idea that we are trying to serve others and enrich lives, I think is very true.
What makes a life a good one? Is it our adventures? Or the friends we find along the way? Is it the challenges we conquer together? Maybe it's the people's lives we touch every single day. So, what makes a life a good one? You'll have to figure that one out for yourself.
Hampton Roads has a long-running high school and college sports tradition. It's time to give them the spotlight they deserve. This is 757 Sports Talk.
Usually it's Hatfield. That's why I try to tell everybody, get on Hatfield. He is the legal scribe, the talking head that knows all this, puts the whammies on. We do things different on this podcast. That's why we're rated number 3 in the state.
You got Play-Doh? Get out of here!
We got people all over the globe watching with us. Sitting in a phone booth with you would be very...
well, no, we got to have your own phone booth. I'm not sitting in those phone booth with you.
It is 757 Saturday Sports Talk here on
I've been told the same thing. You know, the tough part about all this is I'm in the middle and I have nothing to do with it. Coaches don't decide any of this. But the problem with our league is the coaches are the ones sitting out front, and we have to sit here and answer this stuff. And I think there are two sides to this. I will tell you that. But I don't want to get too involved in it. You know, I talk to Giannis all the time, you know, about what he should be working on. I stay right there in that zone about things that I think he needs to add to his game. And that's it. I decided long ago that's not for me to get involved in the rest of this stuff. I don't like it, though. I don't. I think this is a grown man's game, and it should be handled that way by everybody. And so I don't like when it's this he said, she said stuff. It's not good. And so just from that seat, the fact that I have to sit up here and keep addressing it bothers me. And we need to do something about it.
So you heard from Doc Rivers there. Ed is back here on 757 Sports Talk on Cova Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe in case folks missed it. Giannis Antetokounmpo, he lashed out, not quite the same way Geno Auriemma did, but basically he says, I want to play. I'm available to play, but I'm not in the game. He went off, had some expletives, missed his 10th straight game because of a hyperextended knee and bone bruise. And we all know what the deal is. And I don't want to use any high school teams. I might get myself yelled at. But we talked about this during the high school season about the whole situation, the NBA and tanking. And, you know, could it even be done at the prep level with teams trying to get a better matchup? But the tanking term for the pros, simply for a better draft choice. And it's damaging the league's integrity. And you hear Doc Rivers, he's stuck in the middle of it, as he says, coaches don't have the side. This is management, and then a player who's upset. And now Giannis is making comments essentially saying, you know, we gotta figure out what we're doing here. And quite honestly, I feel for the player here. He wants to play, and they're basically saying, no, we're not going to play. So at this point, they got to trade him in the offseason, right? He's got to go. His days in the Bucks uniform have to be done, right?
I agree. I think can't understand why they didn't trade him earlier. It made no sense to keep him. You're not going anywhere. And I hate this idea of, well, we can't really. I mean, it's to the point now, if you're not 1, 2, 3, 4 in the playoffs, you might as well tank so you get a better draft choice. Like that rookie is going to carry you to the championship the following year. Ain't happening. So, and they need to trade him. And the problem is, it brings his value down because people are sitting back saying, oh, I know you got to trade him. Don't ask for 17 first-round picks because you ain't getting it. So they're going to have to. And then again, if a player says, I'm ready to play, I'm okay, you have to play him. He just exposed the league because if the management is saying, no, you're hurt. He knows whether he's hurt or not. Now, you put him out there and he's dragging a leg. He's not performing well. Okay. We proved we were right. So now you're not playing again. But Doc Rivers, I listened to that right there. That's the first time I've seen that clip. I felt for him in that moment because he's in between. A lot of people think, coaches are management, and the pros they are, but they're also to their players. And he's saying, keep me out of this, because if he says he needs to be playing management, we're going to get rid of you. But Doc's going to be gone at the end of the year anyways. If he sides with
back on TV,
management, players look at you like you're supposed to be my coach, backing me, but you're up here with management. Side eye. He's going to lose respect in the locker room. So he's really in the middle. He's really right. I'm in the middle of this, and I don't want to be. Yeah. But the NBA's got an image problem, and it needs fixed. And Adam Silver is not the dude. He needs replaced. We need somebody else.
Get him out of there. Well, you go for the job. Put your name in the hat. Go ahead.
I have as much chance as you do. Now, they could bring us in as a duel.
Oh, okay.
Because that way you can handle the nicety side, and I could be the SOB, because
you are that anyways. You're definitely an SOB. You've been called that.
Get rid of players, left and right, owners. You're out of here, whatever. Just because you have
what you said earlier it brings me to this subject. Remember, you said earlier that the Geno Dawn thing should have been done behind closed doors. Doc even said that this should have been handled behind closed doors. But I give, we always chastise these players. We're always quick to bash a guy for load management and sitting out and not giving his full effort, his max effort, which we saw back in the 70s and 80s and 90s era. I grew up loving the NBA and with my guys Malone and Stockton. They'd play 82 games, with a broken finger or a ligament damage. But give Giannis credit for having a voice and speaking out on this, because too many guys are sitting out and getting paid not playing. He's upset about it. It shows he wants to compete. He doesn't care if the team's terrible. And I give him credit for it, because he could just take the high road and the easy way out.
It was the same thing with my Raiders, Max Crosby. They told him the last 2 games, go home last year. He was like, what for? I want to play. And there's a team that's going nowhere, and he still wants to go out and give 100%. He wasn't necessarily 100% himself, but still he was good enough to play and be a factor. And then they end up trading. We saw how that all ends up. Now he's back, and now we knows what's going to happen. But I agree with you. That's the kind of stuff that has to be behind closed doors. When you talk about, well, this player didn't do this, and we're mad about this player do that, you automatically drop his trade value. When a player says, I want out of here, I want traded, he automatically drops his value. Keep your mouth shut. Keep doing your job, but tell ownership behind closed doors, I want out of here because the minute my contract is up, I'm gone. That way you can still get the most for him. But I'm not going to give a whole lot up for a player when I know there's turmoil over there. They're going to have to get rid of him anyways. So I'm going to try to get him as cheap. I want him. I'm going to try to get him as cheap as possible. And the only other thing I want to say about all this, how many dang brothers does he have? Did I just see that they just signed another one of his brothers for the NBA?
Yeah, well, they did it because we want to see, we're going to get another Antetokounmpo out there so we can put him in our summer spelling bee where you have to spell his name, not the first name. Well, you probably can't spell the first or second name, even if it's something simple like
I just call him Giannis, or the Greek back in the day when they called him Greek Freak. I can't go to Antetokounmpo.
We had, remember you did that, was it against Marty Asprey or somebody? We had you play a spelling bee over there at the Sheriff's. We did back in our radio show days. That was so funny. You guys were trying to spell names. I know you lost, but you were all over the place spelling those names.
No, I won that on the last second.
No, you didn't. We gave you Tamanga Biaka Batuka, the former Panthers running back, and Chris Fuamatu Ma'afala. Shut your mouth, the former Steelers running back. Oh yeah, those last names. I love giving you those last names because you have no chance. I could probably give you all the vowels and you still not get it. But you brought up your Raiders earlier before we go to break. And it leads me to one more thing I want to touch on before we go to break. And it's Captain Kirk is coming to play QB for the Raiders. I got to throw this at you real quick because I want to get your take. They're going to take Fernando Mendoza. I know you're against that. I want to build the line. I want to do this. You've gone through that rant before, and I'm sure you'll have time to do it again pre and post draft. So not today. But I want to throw this little number at you. Kirk Cousins, 11 years in a row, guaranteed contract. 1 career playoff win. He is the 3rd highest paid QB in NFL history. And where was that guy drafted? in the 4th round out of East Lansing and the Michigan State Spartans. My question to you is, will he be QB1 from day one before they hand the car keys over to Fernando, baby, Mendoza from Indiana?
Yes. Because here's how it works in the NFL. You bring in a hotshot rookie quarterback. You better hope and pray he's 100% ready, smart as hell, and knows what he's doing on game one if you're going to start him. Because if you play him a couple, 3, 4 games and it ain't working and he's not looking good and the team is losing and you pull him, to go back to him later is awful tough because his psyche is all messed up. You go with the veteran, he messes up, you take him out, here comes the rookie, okay, and then it's like, hey, Rook, we got to go with you. And if the veteran has to come back later, he's done it before. Kirk will say, well, I'm out of here after this year anyways. I'll get another guarantee next year. Why? I've done 11 years in a row. I'm the 4th highest paid quarterback ever. So he will. It's a good signing because he's still got a lot in the tank. He's not he's not top 10, but he still can do some things. And apparently he doesn't mind being a mentor. Now, some of those guys, Aaron Rodgers, do not want to, Ben Roethlisberger, don't want to be mentors to young quarterbacks. And they'll come out and say it. I'm not his coach. You know, I'm here. We're competing. And I expect to have this job. I don't necessarily agree with that and like that. But then again, some guys have attitudes. And not everybody, just because you wear a pro uniform, means that you're the greatest. But I like this signing. I've come to grips with drafting Mendoza. If he's going to be this God-type quarterback, that's fine. But like I said, you better fix the line, because if you don't have a line, it doesn't matter who you have back there. It ain't going to work.
Coming up next on 757 Sports Talk, David Glenn of the David Glenn Show talks Final Four with us on 757 Sports Talk. And I also have to tell you that I have received your marching orders from your boss. He said, make sure your partner, before the show ends, talks about the 4th-ranked boys soccer team in the area over there in Packerland. So you've been given your marching orders. And by the way, I think we've got our pal from the 757 soccer chat on the show next week. Told him this week was a little busy with Final Four and all that. So I think we're going to get him on to give our little early season to mid-season soccer update for those spring sports fans in the area. We'll get on a couple baseball coaches, softball coaches, we hope, as well. And before we bid adieu, we have to get Ed's take on 3 big coaching changes. There's actually been more than just 3. One in football that we've forgotten last week. We neglected to bring it up, and that's my fault. One that happened last month, retirement in basketball, and another one that retired in basketball. Ed's seen a couple of his compadres with 600-plus wins say they are done, hanging up the big whistle forever and ever and ever. So that's all coming your way. But David Glenn is next right here on 757 Sports Talk, and you're watching with us on Cova Sports TV. Now this from those that help make it possible, like Chicho's.
For any athlete, making it to the top sometimes comes with a few steps back. That's why parents count on CHKD Sports Medicine, advanced diagnostics, treatment, and rehabilitation for sports injuries, just for young athletes like yours. With convenient locations across Hampton Roads and a whole team of experts here to keep your favorite player at the top of their game. CHKD Sports Medicine. Learn more at chkd.org or call the CHKD Sports Injury Hotline.
Cova Painting. We don't just paint, we transform spaces. Visit covapainting.com or call 757-550-7357 and mention the Sportsplex for 10% off of projects over $1,000.
What's up at DQ? Oh, just the best deal ever! The $7 Bacon Cheeseburger Meal Deal. Bacon cheeseburger for a limited time, plus fries, drink, and a sundae. Yeah, this is not the time to be modest. It's all full size for just $7. And there's bacon on that burger. The $7 Bacon Cheeseburger Meal Deal. Now, for a limited time on the $7 Meal Deal lineup. Only at DQ. Happy tastes good.
Hampton Roads has a long-running high school and college sports tradition. It's time to give them the spotlight they deserve. This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Here is Matt Hatfield.
And back here on 757 Sports Talk, powered by Clover Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe. We are privileged to be joined by special guests. He is the host of the award-winning David Glenn Show. David Glenn from the North Carolina Sports Network, our guest here on the program. David, great to be with you again on the show. It is springtime, April. March Madness turns into the Final Four, which is one of the best days in the sports calendar. What can you say? There's a ton of topics in the world of college basketball to dive in on, but we've got a pretty good foursome here to look at with Illinois taking on UConn, who's won a couple of titles in the past 3 years, and two of the behemoths all year long, Arizona and Michigan.
Yeah, it's great to be with you as always, Matthew. And I find it intriguing, just as for one storyline, the Big Ten as a league, and it's now the most wealthy league in the United States, and the Big Ten's cranking out football championships, not just with Ohio State and Michigan in recent times, but the Indiana Hoosiers as well. The Big Ten has not won an NCAA men's basketball title since the year 2000. I mean, the ACC has won 8 since then. The Big East has won 8 since then. Of course, the Big 12 and SEC have had a few each as well. So that is a long quarter-century plus drought for the Big Ten, and yet they have 2 of the 4 still standing. So is it going to be Michigan? Is it going to be Illinois? Or is that Big Ten drought going to continue? That's at least one of the fun kind of 60,000 feet view storylines as things unfold in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I want to give you some credit, too, because one of your clips we had you back on during the football bowl time, and it went viral on, I guess you call the shorts, whatever it is, on YouTube, IG. You talked about Indiana and Kurt Cignetti, and some people were like, oh, no way, some of our Bama fans, they're not going to lose to Indiana, and they blitzed them. And you nailed that one with what a great job he's done and win the championship there as Indiana follows up what Ohio State and Michigan did. But before we dig in on the matchups and the things you like in terms of the subplot storylines there, we have to go to ACC country, which we all live in here, and start with there's obviously a big job vacancy, and then what happened last weekend, the collapse of collapses. We know what a program Duke has. It's like, and Coach Young isn't here to defend his Yankees, but it's like the Yankees. Duke is like the Yankees. Either you love them or you hate them. They're one of those polarizing programs, especially in men's college basketball. But they blew a 19-point lead. The tough ending with one of the Boozer twins and Caden not getting the ball up, had the turnover, and then Caravan has the presence of mind to find Mullins for the 3 that's going to live on, much like Leitner's shot.
Yeah.
From your perspective, you've been watching so many tournament games over the years, whether it be regional finals, Final Fours, championship games. Where did that one stack up? And, oh, my gosh, I can't believe what I just witnessed for you.
Yeah, as you can imagine, this is a big conversation right here in the middle of Tobacco Road, where we have Duke and NC State and UNC all within, 40-ish minutes of each other. And the Wolfpack just had a coaching search, and the Tar Heels have a coaching search. And then Duke, it wasn't just this year, that big lead getting away against UConn in the Elite Eight. Remember, 1 year ago, under young coach John Shire, the Blue Devils had about a 98% plus winning probability when they held huge leads against the Houston Cougars in the Final Four, and that one got away. So I kind of come down in a place that's a little bit more nuanced. Most people want to choose either or, but here's what I say. On the plus side, there are only 3 coaches who have been to multiple Elite Eights, 3 or more Elite Eights by their 40th birthday. Their names are Bob Knight, Dean Smith, and John Shire. Also, in the 73-year history of the Atlantic Coast Conference, there is one and only one brand new head coach who got 3 ACC titles in his first 4 years. His name is John Shire. So you can't say that the passing of the baton from Mike Krzyzewski to John Shire has been a failure. It might be one of the greatest succession plans in the history of college basketball. However, when you're a young coach, John Shire in his late 30s, and that Houston game gets away in the way it did, where the Devils just couldn't inbound the ball late. They couldn't execute what they needed to execute to protect that lead. And then something similar happened against UConn this year. Dan Hurley looked like he was surprised that the Huskies came from that far back to beat the Blue Devils. Again, it was 98+% winning percentage. Just when you throw it into a computer, hey, team A leads team B by this amount with this time left. When 2 straight years you're sent home from the big dance under those circumstances, yes, you're going to have coaches even privately questioning John Shire having his team ready to execute specific inbound plays, specific details when you're up 2 with 10 seconds to go against UConn. The Devils did not execute those things. And that means Jon Scheyer is going to have that question, even amongst all these other success stories. He's going to have that question hanging over his head, because when your biggest failures happen on the biggest stages, and it's not just somebody had a great day. You helped Houston a year ago. You helped UConn this year. Those are, to me, fair questions, as long as you're pointing out all the things that Jon Scheyer has done well at the same time.
For sure. And it's something I know our good friend David Teal brought up too in one of his articles recently about Scheyer. It's funny you bring up Hurley too. I mean, he's instilled a toughness, a winning attitude, and mindset at UConn, which was there well before him with Jim Calhoun, but his antics on the sideline annoy a lot of people. We'll get to that in a second. But going back to Duke and Scheyer, you brought up the Houston game, which in some ways seemed more mathematically impossible in the last couple minutes, because that game people were turning off the clicker and they said, what just happened? I missed it, when Houston came back and then lost in heartbreak fashion themselves to Florida in the championship game on Monday night. But there was also that game in December against Texas Tech. We had more than a 97% chance to win and lost that one. And then they also lost the game, as you know, to NC State, an 11 seed, by a dozen as a 7-point favorite under Scheyer. So there's a lot of things, but he has time to figure it out. All these coaches, you well know, whether it be Roy or Dean or Boeheim, fill in the blank, they eventually figured out when you have the resources Duke does. But I want to get your take on something too before we turn the page to these matchups. It kind of coincides with the matchup we have with this Arizona-Michigan game. I think the thing a lot of people have forgot to bring up is that quick turnaround. Remember, Caleb Foster did not play a lot down the stretch in the second half, and he was key in that comeback against St. John's. I felt like even more than mentally, emotionally, and psychologically, the toll that St. John's took physically on Duke wore them out, where they were gassed in the second half. That game goes to overtime, even they're done. And I think that hurt them for another Big East team in UConn. And it brings me to that Arizona-Michigan game coming up, David, because so much is talked about that's the championship game in the semifinals. Well, hold on now. You remember back in the 80s, Villanova won against Georgetown. People didn't see it coming. You remember when NC State took down Houston, Phi-Sigma, when that game that they played with Louisville was supposed to be the championship game. It could be a factor coming up this weekend, right?
It's possible. And you bring up a good point, because remember, it's not just a Duke team that went toe-to-toe with a very physical St. John's team. It was an already weakened Duke team. And they basically used 8 guys for the most part during the regular season. Darren Harris was kind of a number 9, but didn't play a whole lot. Sometimes didn't play at all. Well, when Pat Gongba went down, the Duke center, with his injury, and then Caleb Foster went down with his injury, even though you have to admire those guys for coming back, especially Foster. I mean, he played less than 3 weeks after surgery on his foot, and as you said, did help as one of the difference makers as the Blue Devils kind of survived St. John's. Caleb Foster was not very good against UConn. Pat Gongba was not very good during the postseason compared to the way he was in the regular season. So if Duke had an excuse, it was an 8-man rotation was kind of 6 healthy guys and 2 guys trying as hard as they could in the midst of lower body injuries. And one of the reasons Duke lost to UConn was that their point guards combined for 6 turnovers. I mean, turnovers happen. You try to keep them in single digits, but your point guards can't have 6. That's a really bad number for your floor generals. I think it was 3 for Foster, 3 for Caden Boozer. That's how UConn wins, right? And that's actually how St. John's came back against Duke. The Devils had an unconventional approach this year, where the big guy, Cameron Boozer, they were running the offense through a point forward as much as they were some possessions more of a traditional point guard role. But whereas Duke's other national championship teams, man, they had Bobby Hurley as their starting point guard, Jay Williams as their starting point guard, Tyus Jones. Heck, John Scheyer and Nolan Smith were kind of combo guards when Duke won it all for Coach K in 2010. All year long, I thought one of the few, not weak links, but less strong links for Duke was that point guard combination of Caleb Foster and the freshman Caden Boozer. Boozer got a lot better. Foster had his injury. And in the end, that point guard situation and those turnovers added up to the Blue Devils going home even before the Final Four this year.
Some excellent points there. We know a couple of those VA guys in Gamba and Darren Harris from their days at Paul to 6 in the DMV country here in Virginia. We're talking with David Glenn of the David Glenn Show, North Carolina Sports Network. Give him a follow. Follow him on the X. Check out his work. It is 757 Sports Talk, powered by Cova Sports TV. And you lead me into that. I got to take the second game first, David, because it is the game we're just salivating for with Arizona and Michigan. And it features the former Tar Heel point guard and Elliot Cadeau at the point. More time now even than before as a starter, just because his backup LJ Kayson is out. But this Michigan team, I mean, my goodness, David, what they've done statistically, they're the sixth school to score 90-plus points in 4 games in the same NCAA tournament, and they're shooting over 61% from 2 this year. They've got 16 wins by 20-plus points. And, oh, by the way, Arizona, they got 18 wins by 20-plus points. How do you size up this game? Because it feels like if they played 100 times, they could go 50 and 50 against each other.
That's a great way to frame the question, and I agree with that. As I tell my buddies, this is one of those where you back away from the betting window because you can't possibly be truly confident that one is going to beat the other. I said going into this bracket, in part because Duke had those injury concerns, my 1A was Arizona and my 1B was the Michigan Wolverines. And here they are, not only still standing, but having to play each other in the semifinal matchup. I stick with Arizona, but Matthew, man, at this point, we're looking for razor-thin margins, right? And one thing that I circle, 2 things maybe. One, the 3 teams that beat Michigan this year were Duke, remember, also Purdue and Wisconsin. And Arizona plays a lot like Purdue does in terms of wanting to pound the paint and get to the free throw line. And with Purdue, it was guys like Trey Kaufman-Renn and even Oscar Clough. Both of them had good games in their win over Michigan during the regular season. Well, Arizona is the best team in the country at points in the paint and getting to the free throw line. So maybe they can follow a similar blueprint, the Wildcats, to beat the Wolverines. The second small advantage, and we saw Elliot Cadeau, obviously, here in ACC country during his 2 years with the Tar Heels. Jaden Bradley is a senior for Arizona. And, man, when they have hit some, turbulence, so to speak, in the midst of a game, he is really good at taking the game, by the scruff of the neck, so to speak, and making a big play offensively, defensively, with an offensive shot or finding the right man in his favorite spot for an important bucket. Elliot Cadeau has gotten better with the Wolverines than he was with the Tar Heels, but I like the senior Bradley over the junior Cadeau, and I just like the way Tommy Lloyd coaches that Arizona team. I think they're 2 of the best coaches in the country. Dusty May of Michigan, Tommy Lloyd of Arizona. It's not mere coincidence that both of those guys were on the Tar Heels wish list after the Hubert Davis chapter ended. So here we are with not only all 4 of these fan bases biting their fingernails in Indianapolis, but there's a Carolina fan base that doesn't even have a team still alive that's biting its fingernails for different reasons.
Yeah, and Lloyd takes his name out for the time being of the search on Friday, but we'll get to that at the end here when you take on that UNC situation. But I'm like you, I feel it can go either way. My slight sliver, and I've been with Michigan from the start of the season to now, and the only reason would be you bring up Bradley as that veteran guard. He complements a team that's got that blend of youth and experience. Some of those young guys, very promising, projected lottery pick guys in Braden Burries and Koa Pete. But I feel like Michigan may be a little more seasoned, and they shoot the 3 a little bit better than Arizona. But this feels like a game that goes down to the last possession. And I don't know if you want to be playing defense or offense with that last possession. Going to the other game for a second here, David, and that is Illinois, who lost early in the season to UConn. Now, Keaton Wagler's playing a much bigger role. Illini defense a lot better than it was back then. And I feel like Illinois, the reason that they're the betting favorite in this game is because they have the European flavor, not the same team they played a couple of years ago when UConn blitzed them with that amazing run, but they have more bodies to try to slow down Taurus Reed, who arguably, you probably could say, tell me if I'm wrong, the 2 best players in this tournament have been Taurus Reed from UConn and Yaxel Lindenborg from Michigan, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And Illinois all year has been one of the best offensive teams in the country. But as you said, they have tightened the screws on defense. And I think that is why that they're the slight favorite over UConn. UConn is brilliantly coached by Dan Hurley. They can at sometimes wonder where their next big bucket is coming from. Whereas Illinois, if it's not Keaton Wagler, it's Killen Boswell. If it's not him, it's a guy we saw in ACC country, Andre Stojakovic, who was really good for the Cal Bears in the ACC, he doesn't even always start for Illinois. That's how deep they are. And there are others, as you said. There's a great international connection at Illinois. So
he might be better than Papa Peja, right? He might be better than Papa Peja, Andre. He's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that we'll see in the long run, but that's a heck of an NBA family for sure. It is hard to bet against Dan Hurley. I mean, the guy's already got 2 rings, and that's a school that it's the only school that has, 6 NCAA titles in the last 30 years. I mean, they have made themselves a blue blood at UConn. But I actually had Illinois in my original bracket. So my original national title game was Illinois against Arizona. And wow. I can promise you, my picks do not always go that well. But I feel like I kind of want to ride with the teams that I had from the very beginning. Although, as you said, man, if we needed to paint a picture for Michigan over Arizona, paint a picture for UConn over Illinois, we could. That's how slim the margins are here. But I'm just going to stick with Arizona over Illinois in the title game and see if I end up winning all my brackets by staying with that.
Listen, you were onto something, and you remember this back in 2005, the year that UNC cut down the nets with Sean May. That Illinois-Arizona Elite Eight game was one of the all-time classics with Darren Williams, D. Brown, and Luther Head coming back, but they looked like they were dead in the water against Channing Frye and Salim Stoudemire, Arizona team coached by the late, great Lute Olson. That was an all-time classic. So if it replicates, if we get that championship on Monday night, anything from that game in 2005, it'll be a dandy.
I'm with you on that. And it's just going to be fun to watch. For like last year, we ended up with all 4 number 1 seeds, and that was heavyweight battle after heavyweight battle. This time, not quite that extreme, but there's no real Cinderella here, right? You got 2 number 1 seeds, a 2 seed, and a 3 seed. So if you're good enough to win 4 straight games to get to this point, and you were seeded that high to begin with because of your body of work over 4 months, you're good enough to win it all. And that applies to all 4 of them. Again, that's why I say don't bet the kids' college tuition fund, because even these coaches will tell you the margins are so thin that one guy's hot shooting night could be the difference. Could be somebody we expect, could be somebody who's like a 6th man or a 7th man who maybe has something close to his season high. Sometimes when the teams are this evenly matched, it's somebody unexpected who ends up tilting the scales in one way or the other.
Yeah, great insight here from David Glenn. Come more later on. We appreciate the time. David Glenn Show, North Carolina Sports Network, our guest here on 757 Sports Talk on Cova Sports TV. Before we get to the Carolina topic, I do have to throw it your way. We brought up to a couple of our guests the last couple of weeks, and Mike DeCourcy and Dan Bonner too, that it feels like college basketball's morphed this last couple of years with the NIL and transfer portal. So much is always about who has that lead guard. You know, last year it was Walter Clayton Jr. from Florida. Go back to Kemba Walker at UConn. Russ Smith, who was ridiculous at Louisville. And the list goes on and on with all those guards. The lead guard determines things. It feels like there's more big men this year, David. That Michigan-Arizona game's loaded with bigs. We know about Illinois' bigs, Charles Street for UConn. What's your sense here as we get to the semifinals and finals? Will it be determined by the bigs, the guards? Does it really matter at this point?
I don't think it does matter. It's a great question, though. And I like to remind folks, just to add one more layer to that broader conversation, and I'm a huge Mike DeCourcy fan. I think he's one of the best to cover college basketball in the history of this great sport.
Super guy.
One thing I like to remind fans, because many, not all fans, but many dislike this modern era with name, image, likeness and the transfer portal and now revenue sharing. I try to remind them that even if there's things you don't like about it, and I get it, there's something beautiful about the new world giving more guys more reason to stay in college basketball. And that has a couple layers to it, because the guy who otherwise might have turned pro early because he needed money to raise a family or to help his sick mom or whatever, now he has a financial incentive to stay in college. And that guy who might never have been a junior or a senior sometimes is staying in school for these key teams in the Final Four or for others. And the other example, especially with so many international players being in this year's Final Four, Matthew, there have always been international guys in college basketball, but the floodgates are open. Why? Because 10 years ago, even 7 years ago, there was no such thing as name, image, likeness money, and there's no such thing as revenue sharing money. So many more guys, if they were born and raised in Europe, they just stayed in Europe and they were apprentices, and it's much different over there. They don't overlap. preparation for pro basketball with higher education. We do that in the United States. Most countries around the world do not do it that way. You either go to college or you sign with, Real Madrid in Spain, and you're essentially an apprentice, the way a plumber would be an apprentice, right? You're working on your trade. Well, 10 years ago, those guys would have said, well, the money's here in Europe. Now they get to say, between name, image, likeness, and revenue sharing, I can go to America, not just to get that education, which previous generations obviously did come here for. I can get that education and make money that prepares me for the next level while I'm working under Coach so-and-so, enjoying this big international stage where people get to see me play. Those are two big positives of the new way in college sports, even if some of those details come with some negatives that a lot of fans don't like.
Oh, it's a great point by you. And I think of it now almost like in baseball. All these guys come from different countries to the major leagues. It's that opportunity. And now we're seeing it more and more in college sports before they even get to the NBA waters. Before we let you run, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up UNC, because I'm sure you get texts and messages and calls every day, just like I do. What's the hot board look like? Is it Billy Donovan? Is it Dusty May? Is it Tommy Lloyd? This guy, that guy. Before I get your thoughts on it, I want to play for you a quick snippet from last week's show. We had on Dan Bonner, CBS Sports, Virginia Sports Hall of Famer. We asked him about the UNC job, and he said, it is UNC, but it's not it's all cracked up to be these days. Here's his take, and I want your reaction to it real quick.
Has to be a name at North Carolina. I don't think the fan base is going to tolerate anything else. I don't think the donor base is going to tolerate anything else. But I'm not sure that this job is like the greatest job in the world, that it's being cracked up to be. Obviously, it's North Carolina, but they've got some issues. I mean, really, how much, as we have seen, the teams that generally have the most success are the teams that are able to spend the most money wisely. And North Carolina has made that huge investment in the football program. And, is Bill Belichick going to take less money so the basketball team can be more successful? And, the thing about one of these jobs opening up that really always bothers me is there's a lot of guys out there who have great jobs already. Why would Tommy Lloyd from Arizona go to North Carolina? He's in a great situation. Same thing with Nate Oates. Same thing with TJ Otzelberger. But all you do is you raise these issues. And I mean, the people from North Carolina haven't come out and said, this is our wish list. This is just all speculation from our colleagues in the media. And what that does is that hurts Alabama, that hurts Iowa State, that hurts Arizona. We're about to have the transfer portal open, and who's going to go to a school if they think the coach is going to jump to go to another one? So North Carolina, I'm sure, will get the best person they can get. All
right, David, your thoughts to that? Obviously, you have it near closer to the ground than Dan and us here, and that clock could be ticking on a guy named Billy Donovan if the Bulls don't bring him back or he decides to come back. Lloyd has pulled his name out. What's your sense on what Dan had to say there and job in general for UNC?
Dan makes a lot of great points. I'll put it this way. On the one hand, if you still want to argue that the UNC job is one of the top 5 in college basketball, I would agree with that. And for anyone who's wondering, only UConn had – I'm not going back to like their 1957 national title at UNC or 1982 with Michael Jordan or even 1993 under Dean Smith. I'm talking about in the 2000s, there's only one school with more NCAA titles than the University of North Carolina, and it's UConn, if you just limit it to these last 25 years. So that shows the ongoing power of the brand and the association with Michael Jordan, and they're a top 10 athletic department every year, and it is still a school that will get a return phone call no matter whom they're calling. But as Dan said, most coaches who are happy where they are don't leave, even for a slightly better job. And if you're at Arizona, you're already at a top 10 job where they've already won a national championship, where they are pouring a lot of money into men's basketball. At Carolina, though, even though Dan is right that Carolina is spending more money on football by far than any time in the history of that school. UNC has never had one of the 10 highest paid coaches in college football until Bill Belichick, who makes $10 million a year. So that is absolutely a shift in culture. And of course, nobody has unlimited resources. Right. So if you're dealing with more expenses in football, now you got to pay Hubert Davis's $5 million buyout. Some of his staff members have buyouts, so that's more millions even before you pay the new coach. And oh, by the way, Carolina has a very emotional, complicated decision to make about the future of where they play their home games. The Dean Smith Center became one of the most famous buildings in all of college sports starting in the 1980s, and it's probably at the end of its life cycle. So there's this dramatic, emotional, sometimes even angry debate about where the Tar Heels are going to play in the future and whether they're going to renovate the Smith Center or build a new building. Well, those things are expensive as well. And we know that Carolina has been operating at a deficit in their athletic department. Now, do they have a magic wand to wave for Billy Donovan of the NBA, who has been talking to them, or some other candidate out there that's going to say yes? You know, the old saying in the dating world is that even if 9 girls are laughing at you, it only takes 1 to fall in love with you, right? If 9 are scared of the complications of taking the Carolina job, it only takes 1 to think it's a great job, right? And that's where Carolina is right now. But it's nerve-wracking to them, I can promise you. The transfer portal is so important right now, Matthew. There are coaches, remember, who left their previous job for their new job in early March last year. Jay Lucas, the Miami Hurricanes head coach, said he left Duke before they went to the ACC tournament. Mm-hmm. He left a top team in the country. Why? He said if he had waited all the way till the transfer portal opened to take the Miami job, his first year with the Hurricanes would have been doomed because he'd have been so behind the curve. So he leaves in early March, lines up a really good roster almost entirely through the portal, and the Miami Hurricanes finished 3rd in the ACC and have one of the biggest turnarounds in all of college basketball. I mean, they tied the record for most wins year over year in NCAA history.
And then beat Missouri and St. Louis to get to the round of 32. Yep.
So there's a double level of anxiety in Chapel Hill right now. It's still not knowing who's the guy. And then on top of that, portal opens April 7th, and anybody who follows that stuff knows a lot of these young men make their decisions well before the portal officially opens. So I'm sure somebody's working behind the scenes on Carolina's behalf, just asking transfers and international guys and fresh high school seniors and others, just, hey, don't commit anywhere until you see who the next Tar Heels coach is. But a lot of folks don't like to wait. So we'll see who it is, and we'll see if it's Billy Donovan is still a big name, right? There are a couple of others out there. If it ends up being a smaller name, people are going to ask, well, why did you fire Hubert Davis for that guy? Because Hubert wasn't a bad coach. He wasn't necessarily a Roy Williams caliber or Dean Smith caliber coach either. He kind of fell in the middle, and because of UNC's high standards, he ended up on the chopping block. But the next guy, the only way you're winning that press conference is if it's a name that makes you say, wow. I still think Billy Donovan, given his 2 national titles at Florida, makes people say, wow. Maybe there's another wow candidate out there, but with Tommy Lloyd withdrawing, and I don't think he would withdraw just to turn around. I don't think he'd sign a new deal with Arizona just to turn around and take the Carolina job. No. That's not going to happen. That's why, so many fans say, hey, just throw a bunch of money at this guy. I've covered coaching searches for almost 40 years. It is always harder in real life than it is on message boards and social media when it comes to connecting those dots and hiring that right person for the job.
You're so right. There's so many twists and turns that I always love when somebody says, who's getting a job? And even us in the media say, they don't know who's getting the job. How can we tell you who's getting the job? Right. Which is so funny to me. But and one little side note here, Nuggets, we finish up. Much like we see these guys staying in the family, the whole talk about hire this guy. It's by the way, to me, it's insane to hear what Stephen A. Smith said with Kenny Jet Smith, but that's not a topic for another time. But Nolan Smith left Duke to go somewhere else to help further his coaching career. We see Marcus Page, a UNC great, leave Carolina to join Wes Miller's staff at Charlotte. So that sometimes happens for a guy who has to leave the family or the school to further his situation. But he's the very best in the business. Check out his work. David Glenn Show, the award-winning David Glenn Show, North Carolina Sports Network. Always a pleasure, my friend. Enjoy the Final Four and championship. And we'll see if your bracket is right with the Illini and the Wildcats Monday night.
Thank you, Matthew. Always good to be with you. Keep up the good work.
You got it. More coming your way here as we put the finishing touches on this episode of 757 Sports Talk. Don't go anywhere. You're watching with us right here on Cova Sports TV.
What is more? Is it more reps, more strength, more stamina? We say it's all of that, but it's greater than just what's in the mirror. It's about improving your mental and physical health, More is a feeling of achievement, fulfillment, confidence. It's looking better, feeling better, being better. And it's our mission to get you there. Because here, you are more. One Life Fitness.
As a banker at Town Bank, we believe that people bank with people, not with banks. You're looking for an actual personal relationship, and that's what you get at our bank. You get that person that gets to know you, gets to know your business, is there for you. I think that is what motivates us, what drives us, and the idea that we are trying to serve others and enrich lives, I think is very true.
All right, here with Denbigh senior guard Nasir Johnson, 22 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists as his Peninsula team gets the dub today, the victory over the Southside in the second annual Mario Mullen Invitational. All right, it's an all-star game, Nasir. I know you guys are just having fun, but you were competing and wanting to win today, weren't you?
Yeah, I knew everybody was going to come out and we was trying to be like playing around, but I was trying to win and show everybody that Peninsula basketball is not as bad as they say.
Yeah, last year the Peninsula lost this game. It was a game in the hundreds, had the lead, but it's interesting. You played against the Class 5 state player here today in Keon Fats Mitchell. You took a lot of pride guarding him, and you guys had a lead that shrunk down second half. How much do you kind of relish the opportunity to play big teams, the big dogs? You had Hampton this year in your district. You had Woodside. You had some big games, and you got up for Fats, and you're 2-0 against him, the guy who was state player here in Class 5.
Fats a really good player. We've been playing against each other and playing with each other for some years, and I just make it my priority to stop the best player on the court every time I step on the court.
You had 22 points, which I think was tops in the game today, but I told the selection committee and those we were doing the MVP voting that I thought the difference in your game was you were making all the hustle plays, rebounds and assists. How much do you pride yourself even playing for Denbigh this year of making the extra intangible plays, the winning plays, if you will?
At Denbigh, I'm pretty much an X factor, so whatever coach needs me to do, get on the floor, get rebounds, box out, just get it done, and it just carried on to my game to now and in the future.
Before we talk about your game, what's next for you, the next level, sum up the year you had. I mean, you guys get to the state tournament at Denbigh, which is a big deal. I know you lost to Verona in the state quarters after losing to Hampton in the region championship, but pretty cool to be a part of the turnaround there at Denbigh High School.
Yeah, Denbigh hasn't been big in a long time, so it's a good pleasure to change that narrative of Denbigh.
So I know you're rooting for your guys next year to take it further with Kevin Parker and that group coming back. But talk about your game specifically. What do you think sets you apart? And you've already made your college pledge. You're going to play for Shenandoah, right?
Yes, sir. Me, different from everybody else, just play defense, play hard, play hard on both sides of the floor, and take what the defense gives you and don't do too much.
And what made you choose Shenandoah for the next level?
Just great environment, great coaches, and I think that's where I want to go.
Sure. All right, it's that type of year. We're getting ready for the NBA playoffs. So who are the guys, when you're playing a 2K video game and watching TV, who are the NBA dudes you enjoy watching, try to study and put their parts, their game into your own?
Anthony Edwards.
Who is it?
Anthony Edwards. Like Anthony Edwards? Hurt right now, so I'm watching busy, but.
Okay, watching busy. I got you. To be a part of this, I know you weren't around when Mario Mullen played, but you've heard, I'm sure, some stories about it. What's it mean to be in an all-star game and get invited and be the MVP in it to you?
It means a lot because a lot of people doubt me as a player and as a person. So just to get the opportunity to showcase what I can do and do the best at it, then.
Awesome. And lastly, as you get ready for the next level, what are your goals you're setting? I mean, sure, everybody wants to win a championship, but what do you want to accomplish at Shenandoah?
To get all-rookie team and win the championship, of course, and move up higher as a player and in the division.
Perfect. Well, he was the MVP today at the Mario Mullen Invitational. Nasir Johnson, Denbigh High School. Congratulations. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Here are Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
Back here on 757 Sports Talk, you heard from Nasir Johnson of the Denbigh Patriots, MVP at last weekend's Mario Mullen Invitational. It was a fun time out there last Saturday, Edward, as you had a couple of Smithville Packers Jaden Sharon and oh gosh, help me. Who's the other guy who played for you in the game?
You don't remember the name because he played about 16 seconds. Jaden Cypress.
That's right, Cypress. Sorry about that. I was having I'm getting old now. My brain was having a brain freeze. But good time out there.
Yeah, I was a little perturbed about the Mario Mullen. And
why were you perturbed?
Well, again, I'm being prejudiced, but it's my players. They played about a minute and a half each, and they should have played more. And they're not the only ones. There's a couple other kids that, in those kind of games, you give everybody a chance to show why they deserve to be there. And then if you want to go for the win in the fourth quarter. But I'll just leave it at that. But it's a great cause. The people are absolutely fantastic to you and I.
Yes.
And I want to see that game continue to grow.
Yeah, they mean well, no doubt about it.
Yeah, it needs to keep growing because and hats off to the guys who did get invited, who showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them did, which is really cool because a lot of times kids say they're coming to those kind of games and they don't, and it messes everything up. So good job for the fellows to be there.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. And by the way, also big thanks to David Glenn, Mike DeCourcy, by the way, who announced he's retiring from the Sporting News. We had him on the show, and then we put him into retirement. He's retiring. And Dan Bonner, you can't get three better in a row than that, giving us all the insight and the analysis and the perspective on college basketball. We tried for a bunch of others, by the way, that just obviously had other commitments. They couldn't come on. In fact, I want to read you. Fran Fraschilla wanted me to make sure I said to you, wish I could, but he's swamped with meetings and basketball stuff, but please send Ed my best. I think we might get him on after he's also doing the NIT, by the way, which features Auburn against Tulsa with our man Eric Conkle. We know Eric for many, 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 many years, his days at George Mason as an assistant to Jim Larinaga, and then down at Miami before he became the head coach at Tulsa. And he's come on with us before too. So we might get Conkle on if they beat Auburn and Bruce Pearl's son, Stephen Pearl.
Yeah, Eric. I know Eric from my days working the Tennessee camp when he was an assistant there under Buzz Peterson. So the connection is good. Eric's one of the best. Yes. He's one of the real true character guys in the business by far. I don't think he cusses. I don't think he took a candy bar from 7-Eleven in his life.
No, that's only you.
He's a pretty good dude. We got to definitely. By the way, I tried to get Steve Lapis. Steve said, I owe you guys big. No question. He said, but I'm just swamped. So.
Full disclosure, for those that wonder, the interview with David Glenn, some don't know, by the way. So I know it's the spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, it was recorded because David couldn't come on live. Again, a lot of people are at the Final Four. If, in fact, we're trying to effort getting on my partner, she has not hit me back. She was good to do it, but again, she might be getting to a place where she can get reception because it is zany out there in Phoenix. But if you're at the men's Final Four in Indianapolis or the women's Final Four in Phoenix, it can be very difficult to find a quiet place or space, which, by the way, mentioning Jim Larinaga, I still have to give him major props for. Remember, he came on with us one of those years on radio at the Final Four the day he was on the CBS pregame. And I bring that up because big thanks to him. And this is our gush session here as we hopefully buy some time before Shonda can join us. You remember one of those years we also had, this was actually when Rod Johnson did the weeknight show on ESPN Radio. Shaka Smart was supposed to be on with us, and he had to cancel because he had a funeral to go to. And then Mike Rhodes, who, by the way, was going to come over, so he's actually on a flight at this particular moment. Mike Rhodes is Penn State coach. Shaka came on anyways because he said, I don't want to break my commitment. When I promise somebody, I'm going to come on. So big ups to him for that. We also efforted David Teal. He had a prior commitment, could not come on. Greg Maynard, basketball coach, retiring at Albemarle, also had a prior commitment. He wanted to come on. Thanks for the invitation. We'll get Ed's take on some of his retiring coaches in just a bit. But now we are delighted to be joined as she's with us. Oh, look at this. In Phoenix, Arizona, my partner on the ODU women's basketball broadcast, former Lady Monarch standout, 1,000+ points playing for Wendy Larry out there. Shonda DeBerry from Phoenix at the women's basketball Final Four. Shonda, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you for coming on. I'm sure Ed's going to pepper you with some hard-hitting questions here in a moment. But first and foremost, what's it like to be at the Final Four? I know you've been at many of them. In fact, you were, correct me if I'm wrong, you were a grad assistant, right, when ODU went to the Final Four back in the 90s against Tennessee?
Yes, and that was, that was an awesome experience in itself, being there and being one of the teams on that, stage and getting that, experience. for sure.
Awesome. Do me a
Back in
favor.
the 97.
Camera just a little bit so we can see a little better because now we've got
Okay.
WNBA.
Are you able to see me?
Yeah,
Can
perfect.
you see me
We
now?
got you Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome.
So you were there last night and at the Final Four. I know you were telling me your mom texted you. You didn't see all that had happened on the sideline, but we don't want to spend a whole ton of time. But what's it like? Because those are four of the best teams in the country, all one seeds 2 years in a row, with UConn, the defending champ, South Carolina, who's won championships before, Texas with a coach and Vic Schaefer, who's won the championship before, and with this UCLA team trying to get the gold under Corey Close with a great player inside and Lauren Betts. It had to be pretty intense in there, and those games were all kind of hanging in the balance going into the fourth quarter.
Certainly. I mean, very intense. And just imagine as, a spectator and the intensity, and then you as, players and coaches and the dedicated fans. So it was very intense. I mean, it was a nail biter and both so close and, teams, this is what they've played for, to be in this championship atmosphere. And then it's just a matter of, a few minutes here and there and how the ball bounces or a bucket goes in or if you get a stop. So it's definitely intense, nerve-wracking, have people around that were just kind of saying, oh my gosh, I feel sick. I'm so nervous,
Before I let Ed jump in here, were you more surprised? Both underdogs won last night. More surprised at South Carolina beating UConn by 14 or UCLA beating Texas by 7? It's funny because yesterday, I know you probably didn't see it, but on Pardon the Interruption, and you'll see Michael Wilbon out there in Phoenix. I know he's close family friends with Kiki Rice of UCLA. Wilbon was adamant with Kornheiser that South Carolina was going to knock off UConn. And Kornheiser looked like he had two heads on his head. Like, what are you talking about? Whereas Kornheiser said it's more of a surprise if South Carolina wins, and mentioned that Texas had beaten UCLA earlier in the season. How about you? Were you more surprised by game 1 or game 2?
I wasn't surprised by the game 1 because following women's basketball and following, South Carolina and their progress and knowing that Coach Staley would have, are you still able to hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Would have her team ready to play. So I just knew that it would take them playing a very, a game that would mean very little mistakes and everybody just being and clicking on all cylinders. So I wasn't surprised at it, but I knew that they would have to play an 8 game to do it. And so probably most people had counted, South Carolina out just by the way that Connecticut has been playing. But you have to remember that also South Carolina, they play a hard schedule throughout. I mean, even their conference is tough.
Yeah, the SEC is for real, Ed.
Yeah, first of all, Shauna, thanks for coming on. I know a lot going on out there, especially in Phoenix. I got to ask, are you poolside?
I am.
Lord, geez, you just gave that job who does his pool segments on here. You just gave him more ammunition that he's going to do.
I am.
And then I saw the wire hook up. I said, hope she don't get shocked by falling the phone.
Oh, no. I know. I'm being careful, Coach. I know.
Yeah, you got to be careful with you. And also I have to bow to you to say, I don't know how you did another year of putting up with this knucklehead at courtside in many of the games, but you deserve to be out there relaxing poolside after having to deal with him. Trust me, because I got to deal with him every week.
Oh my goodness! I mean, I don't know. He might say other, likewise or otherwise about me putting up with me.
No, let me learn you something, young lady. It's okay to say what you really want to say about him because everybody does. He's not all here. He's 9 cents short of a dime, and the elevator on his hotel is 1 floor. It don't go up, so you're okay. It's okay to talk to me. He can't do nothing to you anyways. You're in Arizona and he's sitting in his room. So you're okay with us.
I got to come back. No, it's just such a delight, working alongside Matt, bringing me along and learning a lot. And I appreciate you guys having me on today.
Likewise for you.
Let's get into the real thing. And Matt and I already spent some time on it this morning. And we opened the show with it. The Geno and Dawn rant. I hated it because it's 2 powerhouse coaches. I didn't like it because Geno really shouldn't have done that. He should have gave them their props. They got their butts kicked plain and simple. And then it was all in the public. And I thought Dawn could have handled it a lot different, but she didn't. She handled it, I think, the right way. Your perspective on what you saw, what happened?
Well, actually, sitting from the stands, I knew something was happening because how his assistants were pulling him away, but weren't quite sure what was going on. And then when I called and then my mom was giving me the scoop about what happened, I see that, I don't think that was a very classy move. It should have been a time just, okay, two teams battling hard. Somebody had to go down in defeat and congratulate, just making it a congratulatory thing and not making it this spectacle that it has become, because it does take away from the hard work that both teams put in, and especially the hard work that South Carolina, put in to carry out that win, because it was just statements about what to do before halftime or the physicality of the game. Both teams were playing physical basketball. I think the officials allowed them to play, and then to blame the officials. Maybe sometimes when you haven't had that physicality, a lot, then it may be a different kind of game. But I think it wasn't just a classy move, and you expect better from Geno. And I think that Dawn, Coach Staley being who she is as well, that at a point she doesn't hold back in speaking what she feels. And I think that she handled the way that she felt, best to try to handle it and not sugarcoat, because, there's so many things that behind the scenes that probably have even taken place as well that added fuel to her fire, and for her team to come out and we belong, and we're just going to show and prove.
And that, I kind of mentioned that too, Shonda, that I think there's a little bit more to this than what we may all know, that could be a little personal gripe between those two, even though they have a professional relationship. Dawn was an assistant under him in the Olympics, and they are two powerhouse coaches, period. I'm talking men and women's game. Yes. I think both of them could come into the men's game and still win. I can't say that about all female coaches, but she is definitely one that could step into the men's game and win. It's just the way her presence commands. She knows the game. She knows how to relate to players. She is demanding, but at the same time, she is approachable by her players. So it just wasn't a good thing. And like I said, if he has a personal gripe, do it behind closed doors. You have that kind of relationship anyways. And this thing about, well, she was getting on the officials and she had 6-0 in fouls. Geno, you've done that your whole career too. Pat Summitt gone on you before that in the past. So come on now. Okay?
Right.
There's no need to do that. And the ripped jersey is the least of your worries. The least of your worries. And if it rips, so what? She pulled on her own jersey. So understand things before you put it out in public display, because now the people who don't like you say, see? And now other people who back you say, Lord, geez, now I got to defend him even more. And I think that's where the issue is in this.
Yeah, it just wasn't a really pretty, situation, and like we know it. And I'm, hoping that he'll have time to, some time to reflect on it. And in those situations, when you do make a mistake, it's okay to own it, that this wasn't the right way to handle whatever was going on. It should have been more about him just coaching up his team and the things that his team, if anything, that his team to just kind of say they were not on their best game tonight. And I think that's what happened. And rather than saying that, it had to be about the officiating and what Coach Staley didn't do, or whatever respect that he thinks that she owes him.
A few more minutes with Shonda DeBerry, former 4-time CAA champion with the Old Dominion Lady Monarchs, who was a 1,000-point scorer there, and the radio analyst alongside yours truly. It is 757 Sports Talk on Cova Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe as Shonda is poolside in Phoenix, Arizona for the women's Final Four, the national championship game coming up on Sunday with UCLA taking on South Carolina. I want to go there for you, Shonda, before we let you run here, and Ed can finish up with a question or two as well. It's interesting to me. I think even more fascinating in some respects than how UConn follows up on the men's side, what it did from its 19-point comeback against Duke as they prepare for Illinois today in the men's Final Four, because you have that less than 48 hours turnaround for South Carolina off this emotional, monumental win over UConn to play this UCLA team, which won a rock fight last night. You were there for it. It was a hard-fought game, but it was not a pretty game with what UCLA did to Madison Booker. Lauren Betts inside was great, but give me your assessment of what you've seen from UCLA and South Carolina. South Carolina's the favorite, but both Ed and I said this morning, we are leaning with UCLA right now. How about you?
Well, I'm leaning with South Carolina because I think that they again will be ready. They'll be on the scout and how to handle what Lauren Betts brings and their guard play. And I think that they've Coach Staley's been there before and just that experience too. But knowing on the other side, that Coach Close, how great she is with what she does. So I think that it should be another great game. But I look for South Carolina to be able to, with their weapons and the way that they're really playing, very poised to be ready to come out and really challenge UCLA and keep Betts in check. I think they're going to work to play some lockdown defense, and if they do anything like they were able to do in their first game, I think they will be successful.
Yeah, Ed, there was an interesting stat last night during the game. I don't know if Shonda knew about it. She was watching it live there, but on the telecast with Ryan Rucco and Rebecca Lobo, South Carolina, I think, was 9 for 9 on shots off the pass to start the second half. And their transition game got them some buckets. As you know, we've done so many of these NFHS championship games. When you have a big player, be it a women's player or a men's player in the post, I'm fascinated to see, Ed, how this game is played for Dawn Staley if she wants to play in transition or half court against Betts, who was such the game changer on the inside for UCLA.
Well, yeah, I would think that they got to come up with a plan to slow her down. And one of the ways to do that is get up and down, make her have to run the entire floor, the entire game, limit her touches. I agree. South Carolina, with Shonda, I agree. South Carolina can win this, no question. I think UCLA, girl for girl, is a better team. But, coming off this high with the UConn win, and let's see if that's going to fuel them, even though we do know once they throw the ball up, it's all about execution. Can't go with adrenaline or Geno yelled at us, so let's go out and beat everybody. That's all going to be in the past. You better execute, and I think it'll be going. But I'm going to lean to UCLA, but I'm like most people. Won't surprise me. A Dawn Staley team wins anything.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun. So
Shonda, the other thing I wanted to ask you was, you're sitting poolside, sunny Arizona. I've been fortunate enough I've been to 8 men's Final Fours. And I remember the first one I went to Indianapolis. Drove 24 hours. I thought it was around the corner, but it was not from Virginia. It wasn't. So it was a long drive. But I was amazed. It's such an event, not just the games, but it's the Coaches Association meetings, and there's celebrities walking the streets. The town puts on all kind of displays. It was an event that I've said to many people still do, and I do want to get back. I'm hoping to go next year. That if you're a basketball fan, you have to go to at least one. If you're a coach at any level, you got to go to a couple. Give me your assessment being there in the women's Final Four and you taking it all in. And I'm thinking you maybe been to some other ones, but give us your Final Four perspective.
Yeah, I'm in double digits now. I remember starting going back when it was the first one, I guess, in Richmond as still as a player. But and then starting when it was in Atlanta the first time, and then going every year. But it is a huge production. I mean, the city is on, the host city is on display, and it's specific fan, places for fans to the different teams to hang out, and anybody's that's in the know with basketball is here, and you actually the opportunity to even network, as you said, like with the WBCA. But then all the things for myself too, as someone that's in a school counseling setting, being able to, even from that point, view the teams from the NCAA eligibilities spotlight, to go to some of the sessions they have that's on the baseline to learn kind of about where's the business aspect or the empowerment of women, all the fun and games and excitement they have for the families, for you to partake in and get some nice goodies to take to people, or just have and wonder why you have all this stuff that you can't take back. But it's just so much that the team, the cities put on a huge, this huge event. And I mean, you have people traveling from all around to be here, because even if if somebody didn't go to a game, there's so many opportunities to see the game. If you can't get in to get a ticket, it's on the large screen. There's concerts and the opportunities. So to make it, more affordable, because as time has gone on, as we know, everything, as the prices have skyrocketed, but there's so much to do. And as you said, it's such a big event. The professional development aspect for high school, college coaches, and even someone like myself in my field as a school counselor, as on the side looking at it from a different lens too, in the broadcast aspect.
Awesome stuff. And I want to thank you publicly too, by the way, for being a big sounding board for me this year entering the school system. As she is a counselor, she mentioned it, and she has been a big sounding board as I've gone through my journey with that. But much appreciated. Go ahead. I know Ed's got a follow up to that. Here we go. Oh boy, here we go.
All I know is this. If he lays down on the couch and start telling you his story, Shonda would jump out of that profession real quick, because with this nut job, the medication hasn't been invented yet to fix him. So trust me on that one. He was joking one time. We were watching. There was an athletic trainer. I forget who it was, and the athletic trainer, and he was talking about he was hurt or something. I said, "Hey man, don't help him, because if you have to wrap what's his problem, you'll have all kind of tape around his head. So don't waste time with him."
Around the head, not the injury. The injury is.
Yeah, it would be from the neck up with him. That would be where you have to take to have any kind of healing power for him.
Well, Coach, we're all pardon me. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, well, we're all a work in progress, right?
That's right. Yeah, but this guy would test your last nerve. I mean, if you can do counseling with him and come through, you're going to be like, you'll be going world tour with talks, because you can't get any fixing him. There's nobody else you can fix any better. So again, my hat's off to you. I bow to you, because I don't know how you do it. Oh, you did forget one other thing, and we don't have to mention it on here. The nightlife at the Final Four can be different.
Yeah, it can. There's, for sure. And then the nightlife, and then you have the time change. And I don't know. That's just, I feel like I've been up since I've been here.
Right. You feel like if you're going to go to bed, you're going to miss something. And you don't. I'm waiting for when the Final Four gets out to Vegas. I'm definitely heading out to that one. That's the one.
For sure. So you got to get your rest way in advance and prepare and look and hydrate properly. Proper hydration.
Here's the thing. I was trying to get this yo-yo to go, but I can see him right now at 8:30. He'd probably have his little cap on with the little ball behind the hat, his little PJs with his little animal. Well, I'm going to bed because we got to get ready for tomorrow. I'd be like, okay, Matt, you go ahead and go to bed. I've got I got some people to see, places to go here in the evening.
Yeah. You might be able to get him off the schedule a little bit, right? Maybe. Yeah. I think
I can be prodded from time to time.
Yeah.
Hey, we thank you, even with the 2-hour time gap, and we dealt with the 1 hour, even going to Pensacola just last month, but it can throw you off. But with the 2-hour time gap out there in Phoenix, thank you so much, and look forward to catching up with you again here soon. Sean Denbigh, poolside in Phoenix, and make sure you give me some videos we can use on the show, some pool videos. I know that'll keep Ed juiced up the whole summer. We'll love that if you do that for me.
Yeah, it's been great catching up with with alumni too. So that's really been awesome. That's here. Yeah. So yeah,
out there. I did see some pictures on Facebook yesterday with the Bowmans, Jerry and Judy and Wendy, Larry, and some folks. So definitely say a little.
Yeah. So well, go Monarchs.
Go. And it's the former 1,000 score. We'll make you a regular guest from time to time and get some stories from your playing days too, as well as the broadcasting stories. And Ed will pry some stories out of you, I'm sure, as well. But enjoy the time out there in Phoenix and the game tomorrow, and we'll talk again down the road.
I'll just say
all right, thanks so much.
I'll end my part to say this. I have no problem watching Shonda poolside. Okay. It's my problem is Matt Hatfield poolside, Shonda. That is scary, because you got to put away the kids and the dogs, because when he's poolside in his Speedo, it's not a good sign.
I don't use a Speedo. No.
Maybe together. Maybe us together. No.
There you go. Sean, thanks so much. Enjoy the time out there. We'll talk again soon. Safe travels.
Thanks so much, Matt. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Our guest here on 757 Sports Talk on Cova Sports TV. She's a treat, doing a great job out there in Phoenix, giving us the insight. And she had some good answers to those questions there. She's leaning with South Carolina tomorrow coming up in the game. And that could be a really good game tomorrow. You know, the last championship was not a close one. It was much anticipated. And, of course, the 2 ones before that, Iowa fell short against LSU and Kim Mulkey, who can wear some crazy outfits, as we well know, and against South Carolina, who got revenge from the year before losing in the national semis. Some of these upsets have happened in the national semis at Final Four rounds when the upset happens. We've seen a couple years, Geno lost to Mississippi State, Notre Dame. Iowa knocked off South Carolina 1 year in the Final Four game. So you get some of the surprises. I don't know that either result tomorrow is much of a surprise. It feels like they're pretty evenly matched, as South Carolina's a slight favorite. But Betts is maybe that one game-changing player for UCLA. All right, we'll come back and put the finishing touches on this episode of 757 Sports Talk. You're watching with us on Cova Sports TV. Back in just a moment after we hear from those that make it possible.
What makes a life a good one? Is it our adventures? Or the friends we find along the way? Is it the challenges we conquer together? Maybe it's the people's lives we touch every single day. So, what makes a life a good one? You'll have to figure that one out for yourself.
What is more? Is it more reps, more strength, more stamina? We say it's all of that, but it's greater than just what's in the mirror. It's about improving your mental and physical health. More is a feeling of achievement, fulfillment, confidence. It's looking better, feeling better, being better, and it's our mission to get you there. Because here, you are more. One Life Fitness.
Portco is your local nonprofit organization dedicated to economic empowerment through employment for people with disabilities. We focus on abilities, not limitations, providing on-the-job vocational support. Find your pathway to employment. Contact us or learn more at portco.org.
Well, it's everybody's favorite time of year again. Time to prepare to make your annual donation to that infernal revenue service. And if you're like me, you need help. Help to keep that donation as small as possible. So get off your W-2 and call John Maynard at John's Tax Service. 455-6763.
At Rush Soccer, our love of the game and the community we create doesn't stop when we leave the pitch or when the season ends. We are more than an individual player, team, club, or league. We are a truly global community of athletes, parents, coaches, professionals, and fans. We believe that youth sports and the pathway to a lifelong love of soccer have the power to form deep, meaningful connections that will fundamentally shape our players and those in our community. We believe that what we feel is the key to what we can achieve. Feel the pride. Feel the confidence. Feel the legacy. Feel the connection. Feel the trust. Feel the acceptance. Feel the purpose. Feel the difference. Feel the rush.
At Atomic Wings, we prioritize real chicken with fresh, all-natural, never-frozen ingredients, all packed with serious flavor. Order from over 15 awesome flavors at atomicwings.com.
And now back to Matthew Hatfield and the evil basketball coach. Blast you, Ed Young!
And welcome back to 757 Sports Talk, powered by Cova Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe, and interact with us wherever you may be on this Easter weekend, Final Four weekend, national championship game Monday night. But Ed, some big coaching items of note in the last month on the hardwood and the gridiron. Yeah, it's spring sports time, and we'll dedicate some time on the program to that as we move into the months of May and June once April is complete. But during the month of March and all the madness that was going on, there were some coaches that said goodbye. Goodbye forever and goodbye in terms of leaving the Commonwealth for another state. And that coach who left the Commonwealth, a 4-time state champion head coach over at Phoebus High School. They lost last year in the region final. You remember it well. The Phoebus Phantoms, led by Jeremy Blunt. He is leaving to take a new job and a new school, Nova Lakes High School. The Rattlers in St. Cloud, Florida. Of course, Blunt went 153-23. Phoebus, second all-time in VHSL history in terms of state football championships to the Hampton Crabbers. And he is leaving for the Sunshine State. They always say everything's bigger in Florida, Texas, and California. He's going to a new state, Ed, and a new school to start something from scratch and kind of build his own. And he pretty much had exhausted all he could do at Phoebus.
Agree. And when he stepped down, look, I didn't think he would be done. Maybe a pause for a year, see what else is out there. It's a brand new school, and it's kind of neat to be the first because, you put your fingerprints on everything. So that's kind of neat to do it. It's a good football state, that being Florida, great, pretty decent weather situation. So, I'm happy for him. I think it's a great opportunity for him. He's still young enough that he didn't really need the pause. He needed a change of scenery. There's nothing wrong because most of us in the business, it's probably good to have a change of scenery at some point, unless you're just entrenched to where you're at for family reasons or whatever.
$184 million facility, 46-acre campus in St. Cloud, Florida. They're going to spend the first years as an independent before becoming a 7A classification school in 2020. You heard that right, Virginia football fans, 7A. We have 6 classes. People complain about it all the time. 7A in Florida for Jeremy Blunt. Going to Ed Sport, the hardwood, where, in fact, another one of his compadres has said, I'm hanging up the big whistle for good. There he is talking with Coach Young last summer at the VA Live in Springfield. Billy Pope at Northside High School in Roanoke, 46 years coaching, 40 as the head coach of the Vikings out there at Northside High School, 680 wins, 4th highest in VHSL history, and his 17 district titles, 8 regional crowns, 3 state championships. I think you or I have been on the call of all 3, or together we've been on 2 or 3 of the calls of those championship games. It's over for Billy Pope as he has stepped down and retired from coaching at Northside. I know you're going to miss this guy.
Yeah, I hated to hear this one because Billy still got a lot of excitement. He's still got a lot of kid in him. He does a great job with players, relates so very well. He wins. I hated to see it. I know our time comes at some point. I know mine will be at some point sooner than later, but I just hated to see Billy step aside, and we got to keep him involved in the business, maybe through the Coach Association, BCAP, because he has a lot to offer. And like I said, he still has a whole lot of energy, and what a career, just a tremendous career, and he did it the right way. So I wish him well in retirement, but Billy, don't go too far away because we still need you.
Yeah, I'm glad they renamed the gymnasium at Northside the Bill Pope Gym in 2019 in recognition of his accomplishments there at Northside High School. Certainly well deserved for him there. And speaking of another one of the greats, 600-plus wins, you'll be amazed to know this. Back at Bridgewater College, back in the day, this guy, Billy Pope, was a basketball teammate, 1978-79, of this guy, Greg Maynard, who was retiring as the head basketball coach at Albemarle High School in the Charlottesville area, 45 years on the sideline, 37 at Albemarle as the head coach of the Patriots. He spent 39 years in the classroom, Ed, health and physical education drivers, Ed. He retired from the classroom, stuck on for a few more years coaching, and now the 67-year-old Greg Maynard calls it a career. What a career it was with all the wins that he had at Albemarle, 639 of them. He made the state tournament 8 times, 15 district or conference titles. He never won the big one, but boy, did he lose some heartbreakers. Twice to LC Bird in games that we called on the NFHS network. The state semis at Hampton University to Bird. The state semis he lost to Bird on a buzzer beater. And then the championship game we called last year at VCU to Green Run on Cassidy Jackson's coast-to-coast layup. Hate to see him go, but now he'll spend some more time with the grandkids, the first family of basketball. You call them the Maynard family with all the brothers and, of course, his son's coach. And by the way, in the background, there's his son, Drew, who I think might be the heir apparent. He would be a perfect replacement if there's going to be one to follow in his father's footsteps. He's the guy best equipped, in my opinion.
Another guy, different personality than Billy Pope, but Greg he's a good dude too, and he relates well with the players, knows his stuff, great game coach. A lot of coaches we can't say that about, but he does make changes as necessary during the game. He doesn't just stick with the game plan as is, and if it don't work, oh well. That's not Greg. And let me say this. He doesn't have a state title in his background. And I'm going to tell you right now, he's one that doesn't need it. In other words, I know he'd want to have it. But this dude right here has more cachet, more knowledge, more whatever than I know of guys who have 1, 2, and a couple that have 3 state championships. This dude I would take in a heartbeat over all those guys. And you don't label greatness on just winning a championship. It's a whole body of work, and this man has done it from day one to day end. And I'm feel bad for him that he doesn't have that, because we all coach for that reason, is to eventually win the big one. But trust me, this guy is in no way, any shape or form a failure in this business. He's an icon. He's one of the leaders, one of the all-time leaders. And again, another guy that we need to keep involved in the profession because he still has a lot to offer.
Yeah, Maynard, Pope, maybe get them involved with the BCAV and do something on that front. And Jeremy Blunt leaving the Commonwealth on the gridiron for Florida. So that's going to do it for this episode of 757 Sports Talk. It was all kinds of fun. He puts the finger up, which means he has something else to get off his chest before he bids adieu.
A couple local guys, and I mean, there'll be some other ones. It looks like Eric Johnson will not be at Grassfield anymore. He will be a new assistant coach with Dave Macedo over at Virginia Wesleyan. Correct. And another Chesapeake school will be looking for a head coach. I understand Craig Frost, one of my former assistants, a great friend of mine, is going to step down and pursue some other opportunities. Whether he likes it or not, he will continue to pursue because he is needed on the sidelines for somebody. So wish both of those guys the best in their decision-making for their careers too. And somebody has alerted me to, I just got a text, hey, what are you doing for your birthday tomorrow? Then I had to go back and look and say, how the heck did I get another birthday? I thought I just had one last year. But tomorrow, I guess, is my birthday. So I was like, oh well, here it is.
It's not an April Fool's joke either, because it's
not April Fool's. I was not born on the 1st. No, sir. I was born, I guess, on the 5th.
You, though. I thought that was you. And by the way, one more, Coach, before we get back to your birthday. You mentioned Eric Johnson, Grassfield, departing for Virginia Wesleyan, Craig Frost, your former assistant JV coach at Nans, whenever, who's leaving Deep Creek. Levi Wall announced it on social media that he is stepping down at Granby. So as another one that we can throw out there as well in the 757 on the hardwood side of things for basketball that is departed. So it's your birthday coming up. I'm sure you have wishes. Yeah, I'm sure you have wishes. What's your
I have wishes, all
right. By the
right.
way, John, we have highlighted those as well. We appreciate John jumping in. Craig Brehan at Bethel retiring. We talked about that. We got to get Craig on the show just to reminisce about. Tons of respect. And we played, if you missed it, I think we played it on our show, some of the great tributes they did that night at Bethel for him, the regular season finale against the Hampton Crabbers, and Lamont Struthers bidding adieu at Menchville. So the Peninsula District's some coaching openings there, and there might be one more forthcoming. We shall see. I can't squeal on what it is, John, but there's a whisper that there might be one more opening up in the coming days and weeks. So stay tuned on that front. But a lot of coaches, and then by the way, there's one more in basketball circles has been rumored. I don't want to say where it is, but could be another big name retiring on the hardwood. It's not Ed Young's name, as he's very happy to be back in the fold of coaching after his 1-year hiatus and sabbatical, which brings me back to you for a second. So what's on the birthday agenda? You going to a Tides game? The Tides aren't in town. You going to you're going to go to a concert? You're going to go you're not allowed to divulge?
I think I got to cut the grass because the back grass is getting pretty bad in the back. I'm going to have to take care of that. And take care of the dog. So right now I have nothing on the agenda. I am blessed, extremely blessed and thankful for the man upstairs to give me. I got to get to tomorrow to say I have another day. So another birthday and another year round. I just hope I have a couple more. And dealing with you won't put me in the grave.
That's birthday number 33, right? 33? Is that what it is? 33? Okay.
39.
Not bad. Oh, 39. I was off by 6 years. Okay. Sorry about that. All right.
Yep. So we'll see what it brings. We'll see what it brings. No cake and ice cream. No ice cream and cake. Ice cream and cake for this guy.
That's right. Ice cream and cake. Ice cream and cake. You know,
that's your song.
Yeah, that's right. That is my song. That is my song. Well, we'll feed the ducks and say adios, amigos. Enjoy Final Four weekend and Easter Sunday. Remember the reason for the season, and we'll talk to you next time right here on Cova Sports TV. Adios.